Hi friends. Well, here we sit less than 1 week away from the midterm elections for 2022. And as has become a custom in our country, there's a lot of energy, both positive and negative, leading up to November 8th. So a couple of things that are important as we move into this election cycle. We vote here at Harbor Private Wealth, and then we deal with the repercussions, both positive or negative, with the winner. And so we vote with our conscience, but we govern and advise on the data and the economics. So when we're looking at the election, general election or the midterm election, our politics are not infused into those comments, decisions, or directions. We simply advise from a neutral position. And so heading into this midterm election 2022, here's our outlook. We believe that the House of Representatives is likely, north of 90% chance likely, to move from Democratic control to Republican control. We also believe, as it sits right now, that the Senate, which is a 50-50, technically there are 48 Democrats, 2 independents, and 50 Republicans, but from a voting perspective, it is most akin to Democratic control, with the vice president being the tiebreaker. We believe, as it sits right now, the Republican Party has a 60 to 65% chance of taking the Senate as well. Now, there's a number of things that can transpire between now and Election Day, even though it's only a couple of days away. But here's what's important to remember. Number one is a split Congress, whether that means one party in the House or one party in the Senate, or even in this scenario where the Republicans take both chambers and you've got a Democratic president. All of it leads to essentially a lame duck, no new legislation presidency. Now, there are certain things that can be done by executive order, but from an economic perspective, most things have to be passed through the chambers of Congress. And so with one party taking a part of that control and the other party taking the other part, that means no new legislation, and Wall Street loves that. Now, here's what's also really important to remember. In our recent videos in the last several weeks, we've had to change our posture on the road ahead. And what I mean by that is, in private conversations, at speaking engagements, and in public forums, we've begun to stress that if the Federal Reserve does not change course on their monetary policy, they will likely lead the economy into recession in early to mid 2023. And today, as we sit, we still firmly believe that. Now, as you know, if you're clients of ours across the country, we've been preparing for this. This news does not come as a shock to us, although we don't like the monetary policy that's being executed. But what I need you to hear me say is that no matter what happens on November 8th, whether the Democratic Party keeps both chambers of Congress, which we think to be highly unlikely, whether one chamber goes to the Republican Party and one stays in Democratic control, which we think is probably the most likely scenario, or slightly below that, the Republicans take both chambers of Congress. Any of those scenarios, we believe, does not change the likelihood or probability of recession in early to mid 2023, and here's why. Because economically, the data for the most part is very sound, but you can't fight the Fed. And they continue to chart a course towards higher unemployment, to effectively diminishing the demand side of the economy, which also actually crushes the supply side, and ultimately leading the economy into recession. So whether it's Democrats, Republicans, or Republicans, we don't think that changes course. What will stop the economy from moving into a recession in early to mid 2023 is going to be a reversal or a pause or a substantive change by the Federal Reserve. So ahead of midterm elections, we think the most likely scenario is a Democrat controlled chamber on one hand and the other chamber controlled by the Republicans. Just below that, from a probability standpoint, we think the Republicans could take both chambers, and the least likely scenario, although possible, is for the Democrats to remain in control. You'll hear directly from me right after the midterm elections on what the elections mean and where we go from here. Hang tight, follow us close, and we'll see you next time.